Going to kindergarten for the first time was supposed to be fun, exciting, and full of new opportunities. But for me, a shy little 5-year-old, it was terrifying. A few weeks before school began, all the new students had to take a standard eye and ear exam. You know, read the letters back to the nurse, raise your hand when you hear the beep. The good news, my eyesight is perfectly fine. Bad news, I have severe hearing loss in my right ear. I thought I was perfectly fine. Even though I knew I always had to sit close to the TV, I constantly asked people to repeat, and loud noises hurt my ears so bad it brought me to tears. I didn't know it made me so different, and I didn't know it was such a big deal. The school, however, did know it was a big deal. They took immediate action, putting me in private reading lessons because they believed I would be completely deaf before I learned to read. These lessons happened to interfere with my first grade class's scheduled gym time. And instead of moving the lesson forward or back an hour, they decided to put me in a special needs gym class with 4 little boys. I'd never felt so out of place. I didn't understand why I had to be different from everyone else. I felt very isolated from all of my peers. Deaf children have a very difficult time making friends because it is simply too difficult. According to a study done by Oxford Brookes University, they found that hearing children did consider befriending the deaf children, but there was too many differences for them to have anything in common, including a sound barrier between them. When the 4th and 5th graders were asked why they hadn't befriended the deaf children, the reasons ranged from sometimes they don't listen to it just isn't worth it. It is common knowledge that hearing children prefer hearing friends, those who they can easily connect and communicate with. Social isolation has damaging effects on everyone, not just deaf kids. Naturally, surrounding ourselves with others and fostering close relationships is the antidote to living happy, healthy, and well. Social isolation can lead children and teens to depression, anxiety, and can be detrimental to a child's development. According to a study done by the National Institute of Public Health, found that 32.4% of the female correspondents they interviewed with hearing loss before the age of 3 showed signs of mental distress. A major controversy among the deaf community is whether or not to include deaf children in public schools. Full inclusion is including disabled children in public schools, irregardless of their unique abilities and needs. I recently come into contact with a girl very similar to me. She's completely deaf in one ear and had to use special equipment in the classroom. This equipment included an FM trainer, which was a small portable speaker that sends the teacher's voice directly into a student's hearing aid. I asked the girl how she felt about it, and she said she didn't like she said it brought her unwanted attention, and she didn't understand at such a young age why she had to be different from her peers. The term most commonly used for this is exclusion by inclusion. But are deaf schools better? For some, yes, and for others, no. It is possible for deaf children to thrive in public schools if they have the tools they need. But if the school doesn't have enough money, then the student is less likely to thrive. An article in Redefined magazine listed the pros and cons of both systems. For example, deaf schools have smaller class sizes for more one-on-one time, but public schools have a wider range of extracurricular activities. In deaf schools classrooms are better tailored to their students' needs, but public schools hold their children to the same standards as everyone else, therefore they produce higher reading levels. The biggest pro to having a child go to a deaf school, they aren't alone. Many deaf children leave public schools, giving up their chance of normalcy to find children more like them. Normal children have a difficult enough time in school. Add hours of speech therapy, reading lessons, and then not being able to communicate with your peers, it can take a toll on you. According to Nina Walters, deaf children not only have trouble making friends, but they don't feel secure in their friendships. This is because being deaf is different. When you hear about hearing aids, you usually think of your grandparents, not a girl you sat next to in 4th grade. Because of this, being deaf isn't talked about in schools enough. I believe we need to change that. For starters, educators should at least have a basic understanding of ASL to ensure that all students have an equal chance of learning in a classroom. Furthermore, I believe that children should at least have a choice to learn ASL in their schools. It's proven that schools that teach ASL as a foreign language have deaf children that are much less isolated and have a much easier time making friends. Many states are already doing this, though. Public schools are now adding ASL, or American Sign Language, into the list of foreign languages that students can choose to take instead of Spanish or French. Other states are passing legislation on the issue. This is just one of the many steps that we as a country need to take to help and support our deaf community, and I believe that we can do it. Thank you.